Hello, this is Derek Loudermilk, and I'm going to do a quick little Periscope. Hi, Claude Avery. Thanks for joining. I'm the host of The Art of Adventure, and I've actually got an article that came out today on the Good Men Project that I kind of wanted just to talk about. The article is what the Tour de France can teach you about success. And of course, I'm a former pro cyclist. I do some cycling coaching. I still love racing my bike. I think the Tour is the most beautiful sport in the world. And I wrote this article because I wanted to just sort of take what I had learned over the years about the Tour and relay it to business, because there's so many great analogies you could make from sports analogies. Real quick, let's see, I think I wrote this down. My podcast is called The Art of Adventure. Check that out if you want. And my website is derekloudermilk.com. That's where I post my articles and podcast episodes and the show notes and whatnot. So we're talking about the Tour de France and what lessons we can learn from it. And first of all, if you have ever been on a big group ride, you'll know that there's a lot of opportunity for conversation and people chatting. And I actually see a ton of business deals happening on the bike, and it's sort of, at least in certain places in the country, like where I lived in Boulder for a while, people are making business deals on the bike instead of on the golf course. So if you're not a cyclist, definitely consider getting into it, because cyclists have lots of money, they're well educated, they're usually leaders in their community. So it's a really cool ecosystem to be a part of, especially if you want to make business deals. Let me know who's joined. Say hello if you like, and don't forget to tap your screen and give me some hearts if you like what you're hearing. So the first idea I want to talk about is drafting. And in cycling, riders save energy by riding behind other riders. They can save 30 or even more % of their energy by getting in line behind the other riders. So what does that equate to in the business world? Well, there are people who are creating platforms such as, say, eBay, Shopify, YouTube, anyone that's created something that now enables you to do something easier is a method of drafting. So if you sort of look at the frontier of where technology are, what marketplaces are people creating, where can you draft off of the work that others are doing and have an easier time, whereas before you would have had to do it all yourself. The other question, the flip side of that, is if you create something, if you are breaking the wind for someone else, then people are going to find that valuable and they are going to pay you for it. On the Tour de France, the riders that ride in front in the wind, they're breaking the wind all day for their teammates. They have a contract year after year because they are doing all this work to help other members on their team. Okay, so we talked about drafting. Let's also look at finishing, because a lot of entrepreneurs and business people, we have lots of ideas, and we get started on a lot more things than we finish. I know I'm guilty of this myself. Let me know if that's ever happened to you, where you've started something and not finished it. And in stage 14 of this most recent Tour de France, Steve Cummings was he was part of the breakaway group that made it to the final climb, and there was the two French favorites, and looked like they were going to be battling it out for the win. And he was a little bit bigger rider and came over the top behind them, the top of the hill, but caught them on the slight downhill to the finish, passed them in the last few seconds, and it was amazing. He raced all the way to the finish while the two French favorites, they were looking at each other. And so I want to use that story as a reminder that finishing the race, or whatever objective you have to get to success, is, what you got to keep in mind. You don't want to give up 95% of the way through your project, through what you're working on. Make sure you get to the finish. Okay, the next idea that I want to talk about is reputation. And in cycling, you guys probably are aware of Lance Armstrong and the doping scandals that have affected cycling and the Tour de France. It's easy to damage a reputation, and it's a lot harder to get it back. It takes 20 good events to make up for a bad one. And so you have to be very careful about, what you say, how you act, how your business operates, how you interact with customers, all of these things, because you constantly have to be maintaining a good reputation. And keep in mind that just, a single mistake, or in this case, a long series of mistakes, can have a really long effect. I don't think there's going to be a winner of the Tour de France in the next decade that will be free of questions about whether he's cheating or not. So let's talk about effort and recovery. And in cycling, they work super hard during the stages of the tour, and at night it's a race to see who can recover and rest and replenish the food, the energy they've eaten, and get their massages and everything, rehydrate. And the people that can recover the best by the end of the race are going to be doing better because they're less run down. So likewise, it's helpful to think about the work that you do, where you're putting in a solid effort, a strong effort, and then you're taking a break. I like to make sure that when I'm creating, when I'm doing blog posts, when I'm doing podcast episodes, I focus very intently while I'm doing it, and it's challenging. And then I make sure to give myself a break, relaxing, exercising, eating. Same sort of process as a Tour de France rider. So if you look at the long term, like how much can I get done this month? How many times can you put in a maximal effort of concentration on your work? And then how can you recover from that? One of my favorite ideas is how the Tour de France creates an experience for people. There's no sporting event like it. People flock to the sides of the road in France. They race up alongside the mountain with their favorite athletes, and there's millions of people. It's the biggest live sporting event in the world. And it's totally free, which is even more amazing. But the Tour has created this event, this experience that's been going on for over 100 years, over 100 editions, even the ones they stopped for the World Wars. And what happens is that it's this extraordinary moment, the chance to see and physically be right next to their heroes. And even when we're at home, the motorcycle is right in the middle of the riders, filming what's happening right up close. That creates this experience, and it creates an ecosystem that surrounds it that has just kind of like the drafting that I mentioned. It helps tourism, it helps the hotel industry in France. People travel in and they spend money there. There's all kinds of extraneous economies that are created around this experience. Okay, the final idea we'll talk about is leadership and specialization. On a good cycling team in the Tour de France, you have a leader who can win the overall. You have sprinters, you have helpers and climbers, people that can win on hilly stages, and you are using strategy and the skills of the individual riders to create a winning outcome. Likewise, you want to bring in a team of people into your life, into your business, that are going to complement each other. And so strategically at the beginning of a Tour de France stage and strategically at the beginning of a project, you're going to want to map out and talk strategy about how you can most effectively use the skills that everyone has. And that's one of my favorite things about cycling, is that you can be really strong and you might not win. And so someone who's tactically prepared, who understands what's going to happen that day, who knows how the strengths of their team will play to the course. Likewise, in business, if you can pause before you start a project and get a good sense of what you expect, what success is going to look like, what it's going to take, and how you can get there. You can be copying off these winning teams that have a very highly detailed approach. They have the aerodynamic guys, they have the fitness trainers, they have all these professionals that they bring in to give them that 1% advantage. And a lot of times in business we try to do the average, do the minimum to get by, and all it takes is 1% more preparedness or 1% better strategy, and you're going to set yourself hugely apart. So I hope you guys enjoyed some of those Tour de France analogies, talking about various ways we can gain knowledge and insight from the Tour. I'm going to keep writing, it keeps putting me in contact with amazing people. It's been helpful in my business. I've gotten jobs and all kinds of side benefits socially from being a cyclist. So if you're not already, then I would highly recommend it. And thanks for joining. Again, this is Derek Loudermilk of DerekLoudermilk.com, and I host the Art of Adventure podcast. Check it out if you want. Subscribe to my Periscope, and I will see you all again soon. Bye-bye.